Oh. Oh. Yep. Part 3. Daily number 671. We're glad this isn't Hearthstone. But we're going to be glad it is Hearthstone next Wednesday. Because I'm a tryhard. We're talking about positioning. Mech. BravO has the edge without ever really going past this mid line. He hasn't really gone here. He's only gone over here to take out this base and take out this base. Isn't that cool? The close distance. Mech loves it because tanks get sieged and attached to the ground. So now BravO has a lead. He is 4 base versus 3. I want to take a look at the BravO cam. Scans. Sets himself up in a threatening position. Look at this. Scan, mass scan all the time. This is a ploy to get to this watchtower. This isn't super necessary. But watch, BravO just got the tail. He just got a whiff of a fart that a Mutalisk once had a week ago, and he instantly turned around. Let's see that again. I'm going to slow it down to normal. So there's a Mutalisk pack. So he comes this way. He's moving down. He's moving in. Here it comes.
Mineral field.
I'm going to try to pause it right on point. Okay. It wasn't. They're Zerglings. But this is what BravO sees. Like, I had to pause that. Like, this is a literal nanosecond, literally, because I have a nanosecond reaction time. It's like 1 nanosecond after seeing 3 Zerglings. The Mutalisks are actually coming down here. 3 Zerglings, and then he's like, nope, go home. We can't afford to suffer losses. Oh, wait, it's Zerglings. And only then does BravO actually begin to reposition stuff. Now, if we look at the way that he's splitting his army up, the things that are really good against Zerglings he sends back, and everything else trundles forward. But this is one of the boldest, riskiest pushes that we've seen him do yet. So what BravO should really be doing is rallying to the safest possible location, which he is. He doesn't have a rally point here, which, I mean, a rally point here would be right into the dark fog of doom where he can't see anything. I mean, it's literally the safest spot possible is where his rallies are. Because this army is probably going to have to be abandoned at some point. It's either going to die, or we're just going to have to let it die. Now, what we're seeing here is 41 Mutalisks versus some Thors. These are 3/3 Mutalisks. We're seeing all the Tanku die. Tanku. And if you thought mobility didn't matter, goodness, how wrong you were. But Thors, they counter Mutalisks because I looked at a spreadsheet and it had... Oh, why would a spreadsheet lie? This is exactly what Leenock wants. An out-of-position Terran. Now, if you look at the supplies, you're going to be like, oh, this is less than that. But look at the army size. Look at the armies. A Thor, 2 Banshees, and 12 Hellions. That's it. Do you see how dangerous it is to be at a position? Do you get it? Are you going to be responsible and scan and stay at it? Let's get back to the game. Alright, great. These little Hellion movements are cutesy, they're great, but... Cutesy, great, but not as important as Les Autremont. Now, in this spot, I think BravO does, for the first time, a move that I really like. He starts flooding a lot of mines, even getting the drilling claws. I like the fact that he waited this long to get them. Because the mines are very specific in when they're good and when they're bad. They're very nice against Mutalisks. They're not as nice against really anything else. They're just not. Not in this matchup, at least. I mean, I know that they're good for picking off like Ling Bailing and stuff like that. But we're Mech. He's going something along the lines of like Roach Muta with maybe some other units that we don't see yet, like Infestors. Maybe he's going to get Infestors coming up soon. Maybe he's going to begin getting some Hydras coming up soon. It's very easy to be like, oh, no one goes Hydras. But let's not talk about what is often seen. Let's talk about what is literally possible. The units on the Zerg landscape, Roach, Mutalisk, Hydralisk, Zergling, Baneling. We can say to ourselves, we're pretty good against Lings and Banelings because we have the Hellbat Hellion to deal with the Zerglings, we have Tanks and Thors to deal with the Banelings, and we're staying pretty spread out. Hell, Hellions are pretty good against Banelings too. Mutalists, we really got to worry about that. Let's make sure we have enough Thors and Vikings. Against Roaches and Hydras, yeah, we got the tanks there. We don't really need mines. The one that's scariest of all to us is the Mutalisk, as we can see. So, that's really, I think, the most accurate spot where you'd want mines. And earlier on, you could say, well, why didn't he want the Widow mines earlier? The answer is that Widow mines are fundamentally immobile. They have to burrow. They have to be still. Thors are more mobile than mines. No one really compares the mobility of these two units. I mean, that sounds weird. I mean, people will say, like, oh yeah, Mutalisk, much, much, much faster than a Queen off Creep. But Thors and Widow mines are sort of a hard one to stew on a lot. So, notice that at the 30-minute mark is like the only moment at which we're starting to go, oh dude, we need another base. This one at the point, mined out, we're going to go here. Where are the points of our base? Well, here's still one, and there is another point. Ooh. Coming on back. Now, Leenock is in a totally screwed position. So he's kind of forced to go for infestors. He'd like to continue to do his harass here, harass there, but he's been locked out of that so long. He's going to be going for more efficient units, which makes sense. I mean, by and large, I'd be like, yeah, Bravo's probably just got this 1-1, and it's going to take a miracle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, and I'm just going to be focusing largely on Bravo's point of view, because I think he closes this game out absolutely gorgeously. One big thing to note, Bravo wants an army that's going to have a mix of some Thors, a lot of mines, some siege tanks, some Hellions. The order in which he does them. Gets the anti-air defense stuff first, and then he floods in with the other bits later on. More scans going down. All the Thors trying to get into position. Leenock takes one look at the amount of missiles that he's about to be up against, and he pulls back. Most defended parts, the points. The points. And look at these little tiny pushes. These Widow mines just act like defending. Tanku. So good. Just a little poke. Not as a huge concern to try to throw out a lot of tanks right now, because we're just fairly convinced that our Zerg buddy has a bad economy. He's probably retaking this. We can probably kill it off. Thus far, he's pretty much been on 4 base, and we know that we win 4 base versus 4 base. Better yet, we even have a 5th base. Needles are going to try to attack anything, but boy are those points defended. Go Bravo. Throws down a scan here. Yet again. Killing off this base and disabling this base at the same time. It's happened throughout the game. It's happened very gradually, very gently. Scans going down. Oh yeah, the ultra late game Banshee. One of the sickest plays ever. This is so good. He got the Cloak Banshee early on. Let's use the Cloak Banshee later on. Bravo is so terrified to lose this base. Rightfully so. He has high-sec auto-tracking. He has Terran building, plating. That engineering bay didn't go to waste. Kind of scooping everything out. Notice these subtle vision plays. Actually, you can't appreciate them until you look at this minimap. You just can't. You're incapable of appreciating it without the minimap.
SCVs are under attack.
Alright, so here we go. Here's this push down to this expansion. You see that? Alright, we got some Mutalists down there. Here he's pushing down. He's doing some aggressive things. But notice these mines here. And then these 2 mines. Actually, I'll show you. See these 2 mines here? He leaves them. He leaves them there. He pulls almost all the way back to his base. Look, he's pulling back to a nice defensive spot. And then he's going for it. Look at the vision here. Look at the vision along the left flank. Oh, sex. Oh, yeah. Scans here and here. I mean, literally, he has an entire sweep. Notice how this makes a nice circle around his army. Yeah, or I should say a half circle.
Your forces are under attack.
Mutalists are concerned, so you know what? Let's walk nice and slow. Walk it up slow, push it up low. I don't really know that song, but there is a point where she goes, pop, pop, pop that thing. I'ma show you how to make your man say, oh. Let's look at the mini-map, look at the vision. Coverage. He's really walking in deep because he's got so much vision coverage here. I mean, this is actually the scariest. This is terrifying. Obviously, this push can now threaten this base and this base. Both of them. But our most important mining base is at the other end of the map. So we are not surprised. We are proud of BravO. We commend him for building 11 missile turrets. I'ma show you how to make your Zerg say, oh. So, I mean, Zerg gets pummeled pretty hard there. A lot of Thors. Not a passive game. More scans. Scans go down. Scan every which way. Oh my god. Broodlords, pull back everything, but let's make sure we kill the bases. Leave a few scraps, pull back everything else. How many times have we seen that this game? If you said 5 or 6, you're probably correct. And BravO, we can just see going spamming like crazy. The starport's just been sitting idle, churning out Vikings. There's some potential to begin to get some Ravens, but BravO was doing such a great job keeping his enemy down on bases. If you get to something like 6 base versus 6 base, that's really when you want your Ravens in there, where you're starting to think, like, geez, I might have some problems closing this game out quickly. So look at this, BravO just does a little push here, a little push there, here a push, there a push, everywhere push, push, while he gets his extra starports up.
I'm in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
Mineral field completed.
Still hard to kill Leenock. He's a pretty thin value player. More scans, and guess what angle BravO attacks at? Just the points, just taking down this one. Down here if he wants to take out another base. Very cautiously, planting himself very far away. Doesn't really want to approach that. There's the SCV sacrifice so he can build more Vikings. Yada yada yada, etc, etc, etc. We're seeing a Zerg who has no funds. He's getting scanned. He's getting bummed. Mules and Vikings are so neat. Has a lot of Vikings, 20. Just killing the expansions, picking off whatever he can. Doesn't care to hit high value targets, he wants to hit any targets. Because a non-zero amount of damage is good, and a huge risk, like losing all your Vikings in this way, is bad. And suddenly BravO's actually okay with taking some of those exchanges. He might say to himself it was okay to have lost, 20 Vikings, because I'm pumping them out 5 at a time, and Zerg has no economy. He has not an economy. Not economy. Killing feels so nice, especially out of context. Continued scans, finding the value target. Down here is the value target. Let's go ahead and push. Interestingly, the first central push of the game goes so horribly. BravO pulls back out to the sides. This is bad for BravO. This is bad for BravO. But again, building Vikings 5 at a time, it's almost okay, because soon enough BravO's starting to out-expand the Zerg player. The most interesting final note, Terran suddenly has a more mobile army than Zerg. Zerg is pinned to the Broodlords, and the Infestors are super slow. So now it's BravO we see splitting himself apart, spreading himself out across the map. And Leenock does a final run in and gets pooped on. I tried to be cool and rolled backwards, only to nail my phone charger cord. To recap, we got the chance to see a really beautiful Zerg vs. Terran game, where we saw Leenock doing insane Muta roach. Racked. It was hard for Leenock to be able to get good angles on his counterattack because of the map. It was actually probably the best play BravO did was select Mech on this map. Fantastic the way that he played it out, securing his 4 bases and just locking the Zerg out of the nearest by bases. Almost saying, Zerg, you can have 4 base total. You just can't have these close bases. Just great, great, great stuff. I do think that Zerg would have been able to win, not with certain units or certain mixes, but with certain tactics. I genuinely think that the Nidus Swarm could have helped. Questions straight out of the gate. Why doesn't he get sensor towers from Zuba? I'm going to come back to the minimap. I'm going to back it up just a few seconds. It's really because they don't contribute any extra value. This one does. Let's look at the minimap. This one helps. I mean, we can see this ring, that it's protecting the counterattacks on the backside. It's keeping a good sense of what's going on here. But then we think about, where is any other place where he could build a sensor tower? In fact, let me come to the 26-minute mark. Whenever I can. Where else is he going to be planting a sensor tower? He could plant a sensor tower here. But even if he has a sensor tower here, there's 2 problems. One, look at my screen. This is a vulnerable location for a sensor tower. And 2, even if he sees an army coming in, he still needs to have the defense already there. A sensor tower is redundant. It doesn't do anything new. The other place where you might argue to build a sensor tower would be out in this center spot. This is too unsafe. If we can get it there, great. But we're now having a 4-point defense. We have this point up here, this base. We have this point here. We have this backside point, and then we have this front point. So we have to make sure all those are defended. When BravO had units here, they got crushed pretty quickly. Jim Faustus says, Day 9, what do you think of the idea of exploiting a small surface area against Mech to clog it with swarm hosts? I feel that while it is super boring, it has a higher success rate as this style. That seems the swarm host Vipers in general would let you pick off masses of Mech units for free. I don't know how much I like swarm hosts against Mech. I mean, I know a lot of people go for them, but in terms of mobility, swarm hosts are the lowest. They have the worst mobility in the game, other than probably buildings. I just don't think you get to pick off as many things as you'll tell yourself that you can pick them off, because the Terran player can just match tanks for swarm hosts, and then has a much easier time doing run-around attacks because you have so much focus there. It seems just much easier. Alright. Let's take some questions. Big Kev, sexy man. Oh yeah, let me just say, I think that a swarm host focused strategy is probably going to be the best, or might be one of the better direct ways to deal with Mech, but I don't think any direct attack is the correct way to go about it. Now, back to Big Kev's question. You mentioned Nidus worms, but are Overlord drops another way to exploit the mobility issue? I actually, if they're tiny, big Overlord drops are anti-productive in a lot of ways because you drop and then you are committed there. Like, if you do a huge drop, he can get incredible value right away. I like the Nidus Worm a little more. I think tiny Overlord drops, like just 3 Overlords dropping some roaches in this backside here. I mean, just imagine the roaches being here and just they're starting to tear stuff up. You know, maybe they walk up and hit the victories and they see the units, and then they load up and just drop here and begin to poke here and then lift up and load there. That's great. You're being in a lot of places at once. But I don't like the idea of a mass drop just saying, here's all my units in one spot. Nidus Network, you get the benefit of being able to have your whole army there, but to be able to pull it back. I'm going to take one last question and end this. Drodo says, Day 9, did Leenock make a mistake by putting 2 important mining bases in the bottom right at the end, or was he dead at that point? Can you find a tipping point for this game? Yeah, let's actually find the tipping point. Generally speaking, you want to spread your bases out, but I don't think any base positioning was the killing moment. So right here, I really like Zerg's position. I kind of want to see an expansion coming down here at some point. Pretty soon. I mean, 82 drones for Leenock. Great. Like, you know, can definitely support the geysers there. I think that, you know, making some spines there too helps, but I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I love this bust-in where he gets this. Takes some damage there. It's not actually huge. Let's see. I think he's winning here. Gets a big edge there. Yeah, I think it was right around here. I liked what Zerg was doing here. It wasn't quite killing off a lot of workers. That's fine. Lost this base. Not horrible, but that's also fine. This is where I think Leenock was getting a lead. Just a lead. Straight up. Waltz right in here. I think this is where we started to see errors. There's too much targeting of stuff like this, and not enough of just killing off workers. Just like consistent value things. Getting deep into here, I don't like assaulting up like this. I prefer saying, no, 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 you chase me down here, and then I'll kill you here. Right around in this period, while this was dying, there needed to be some, like, big gains here. Actually, I guess Leenock's still doing great. But, like, you can imagine that in the moment when this is threatened, if there is a base here, I mean, getting that many hatches is great, not for having just simultaneous places to collect gas from. You can't get any extra mineral income beyond 5 bases, really. Even when you're at 6 bases, when one dies, you just transfer all the drones from one to the other. So you kind of have like an instant backup plan down there. So I think that that's sort of like in this period, in this phase. Yeah, and like not killing off those workers there. This was a great move. This, like, right in this period, I just felt like there was a little bit too much over-aggression. But I think one of the most beautiful things about this game is there was not really, like, the dead moment. I like your language, Drodo, there. It's like a tipping point. It's just like, you know, Bravo's really starting to get his stuff together, and now it's like, alright, okay. I'm safe. And Zerg really is locked down 4 bases. He's really struggling to get this. God, I really would have loved to see that warp in back there. I still think he's okay here. That, I appreciate that move. I don't think that's that unreasonable. Sometime in this period, like a little before. Like, Zerg's position right now doesn't excite me. That's it. I'm done, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. I've been getting up at 7:45 in the morning. What? So I'm actually not going to sleep through my day off tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be playing Banner Saga. See you then. Have a great everything.